Hey everybody, I'm Amy Carol Reeves, the author of the Ripper Trilogy, and I'm also a British Lit professor at Columbia College, a small liberal arts women's college in Columbia, South Carolina. Today I'm here to talk about one of my favorite subjects in literature. In fact, I taught a class that was based on this theme one time, villainy. As much as we hate villains, we kind of love to hate them, and no book can be a satisfying read unless it has a great villain, or two, or three, if the case may be. So I want to talk about the four main different types of villains. The first type of villain is the ends justify the means type villain. A great example of this is Shakespeare's Richard III, which Richard III was actually a real person, and a lot of Shakespeare's play was actually based on historic facts or what we think might have been true in history. Richard III, he is a good example of the ends justify the means type villain because he was patient, he was conniving, he was willing to wait as long as it took to get what he wants, and he was able to do anything, even if it meant killing someone, to get what he wanted. And he did some pretty horrible things. Mainly, he's remembered for, a lot of historians agree that he probably murdered his own nephews. So after the death of his brother, Edward IV, he had Edward V, who was around 14 at the time, and his younger brother. He had both of the boys locked in the tower, and then they disappeared, and Richard III never had any comment about it, and a lot of historians agree that he probably had them murdered so they wouldn't be a threat to his throne. So not only is he accused by a lot of historians of murdering his own nephews, but he also had a really creepy crush on his niece Elizabeth of York, who was also the older sister of the two murdered nephews, the young princes in the tower. And he probably desired her because by marrying her he would have ended the War of the Roses and could solidify his power even more. But fortunately he was defeated by the future Henry VII, and so he ended up not marrying his own niece after all, which was good because, like I said, that's pretty creepy. The second type of villain that I want to talk about is the bully. The bully uses power and money, or the appearance of power and money, to control everyone else to get what they want. The perfect example of this, the best example I think in literature, is Lady Catherine de Bourgh in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Lady Catherine, when she determines that she wants her daughter to marry Mr. Darcy, and she's going to do whatever it takes, manipulating, bullying Elizabeth Bennet, doing whatever to get what she wants. But like I said, a lot of times it's the appearance of power, and in the end, Lizzie Bennet triumphs. So brains, in that case, triumphs over bullying. The next type of villain I want to talk about is the psychopath. And the psychopath, they have a little bit of the ends justify the means type thing. They're willing to be patient or conniving, but they go a little bit further. They're willing to take their time destroying others emotionally or psychologically, even if it means destroying themselves in the process. So the psychopath villain is pretty twisty at a lot of different levels. And in my opinion, although a lot of times we think of this character as like the Hannibal Lecter character, the serial killer as well as the psychopath, and I'm not saying Hannibal Lecter isn't a psychopath, he is, right? But I think that the creepiest psychopaths in literature take the form of maybe like Miss Havisham, who seems to be just kind of a creepy, crazy lady wearing her bridal gown from decades earlier, and her house is filled with cobwebs. She seems pretty benign, but she's able to ruin the lives of young people by twisting them psychologically in many ways. She's able to she tries to ruin the life of Pip and Estella through twisting their understanding of the world and their understanding of the opposite sex. So she, in my opinion, is a pretty solid example of the psychopath. All right, the last type of villain that I want to talk about is the jerk. And the jerk isn't going to take his time to destroy your life. You're not that important enough to the jerk for them to do that. The jerk is more specifically just a general asshole. A lot of times the jerks have a little bit of the bully in them, but they're really kind of more selfish. They're going to demean you. They're going to make you feel not important. I think that a lot of times in literature and in movies, the jerk is more sexist exist, and just that kind of comes across in their general attitude about the world. A great example of the jerk is Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter. He's not the, say, villain that Voldemort is, or even like his father is, but he's going to demean Harry to flaunt his power. He's going to kind of throw wrenches in Harry Potter's path. He's going to demean him. He's going to make fun of Ron Weasley. Another great example of the jerk is Mr. Wickham in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. He connives and he plots against people, but it's more just for selfish purposes, to get more money. So when he manipulates others and that kind of thing, it's not necessarily just to ruin their lives, just for the sake of ruining their lives like the psychopath might do. He's doing it to get what he wants, to get more money. So his motives are completely different. So these are just a few types of villains, a few categories that I've sort of separated out. I'd love to hear from you if you have any additional villains you'd like to add to these lists, or any other categories that you think are worthy of discussion. So if you'd like to talk about this more, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter.